Okay. What's up?
Um, a lot of confusion I found around double triggers. So,
What do you
like
mean
if
by double
uh,
triggers?
if ability of XYZ would trigger, it triggers an additional time.
Oh, so like you would find on like Roaming Throne or something like that. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got two of those on the battlefield,
Uh
is
huh.
the copy is the let's say my Grim Green attacks. Um, I get to destroy target creature defending player controls. So
Okay.
if I had a roaming throne and something that doubled zombie triggers, or attack triggers. Let's say this was in a Boris deck as well, with Windcrag Siege.
Sure.
Um, would the trigger go on the stack 3 times or 4 times?
Gotcha. So this is the principle you need to understand on that. Any of those effects that say when trigger happens, it happens in additional time, right? So Roaming Throne,
Mhm.
Panharmonicon, Windcrag Siege, Ishin, Wolfgar, Annie joins up, all of these things that say when this type of trigger happens or when this triggering event causes a permanent you control to trigger, whatever it's worded like that. If it says it triggers an additional time, right? That
Uh,
that ability in and of itself is not a trigger. So like Roaming Throne's ability to cause a creature type to trigger an additional time, that ability is not a trigger. Windcrag Siege, give if you choose Mardu, saying if a creature you control attacking causes a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. That ability itself is not a trigger. What that is a static effect that changes the rules of the game for how certain types of triggers work. So by default, if a triggering event happens, the thing that triggers only triggers one time. That's just the game rule. That's how that goes, right? So, I have something that says landfall, draw a card. I have a land enter the battlefield. I get a single trigger to draw a card. That's just we understand that's how the pattern of it goes, right? Now,
mm,
if I have something that says when this type of trigger happens, it happens in additional time, that is changing the rules for how that thing works. So now the thing that has the trigger will trigger 2 times instead of one whenever that triggering event happens. So if you have something with an attack trigger and you have both Roaming Throne and Windcrag Siege choosing Mardu, that is now applicable to that attack trigger. The triggering event happens. The creature attacked. That's the triggering event. The thing that is going to trigger wants to trigger one time per the rules. Roaming Throne and Windcrag Siege go, both of them look at it and go, oh, by the way, trigger an additional time. So that thing now triggers 3 times total. But Roaming Throne and Windcrag Siege don't see each other for any effect, right? They're not triggering off of each other or anything like that. It's just they are both telling that original effect to trigger an additional time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the confusion that a lot of people have had is they believe that this happened to my Nimpakal. She swung out,
Uh huh.
and then I had Windcrag Siege and Roaming Throne,
Yeah.
and people were saying no, it happens 4 times, um, and they believe that the trigger went on the stack, and
Yeah.
then this saw that trigger, which triggered an additional time,
Uh
and
huh.
then the Windcrag Siege both the abilities on the stack,
Uh huh.
and then like made copies.
Yeah. They're treating the roaming throne effect like a trigger and not just something that changes how the yeah exactly.
Yeah,
Um.
changes the rules.
Yeah.
Well, I do have maybe two questions. I forgot one. So I had one. Um, oh yeah. So okay, let me bring out. Okay, I have a changeling deck,
Okay.
and let's say if you have coat of arms and the changelings,
Yeah.
and let's say, let me grab the deck real
So
quick.
most of the time, the question about coat of arms is does it count the number of creature types that the creatures have? Is that where you're headed?
So yeah, so let's say there's. I'm gonna put some creatures out, and we shall see the example. So
Okay.
let's say that this is a changeling, and
Yeah.
this is a sleeper, and then there's a centaur and a warrior. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does coat of arms consider count? So give mutable explorer +2 +2, or or it's gonna count
Gotcha.
also.
So the way
Outside.
that yeah. So the way that coat of arms works is it counts the number of creatures that share a creature type with each creature. It doesn't count the
Uh,
number of creature types they share. So you have that changeling there, it's going to get +1 because of the sliver, and it's going to get +1 because of the orc warrior. For the orc warrior, it doesn't see 2 creature types and get +2, right? So
okay.
it's currently getting +2 total. Now remember, that's each creature in play, so that includes your opponent's creatures as well with that, especially with that changeling. So just keep that in mind. That is going to get really big.
Yeah, beautiful. Next thing is about vehicles.
Yep.
So if I crew this vehicle and then I saddle Calamity Galloping Inferno with it, its attack trigger says
Is that
create
the one that makes
two
a token?
copies. Tapped on,
Yeah.
yeah, two tapped and attacking token copies.
Yeah.
Now the tokens will enter. Do they enter as creatures?
They do not. So this is what happens. Uh, uh, are you familiar with layers at all?
I know that there are certain like there's 7 or 8 layers, but
Yeah,
don't.
there's 7 layers, and layer 7 is broken down into some sub layers. But the important thing to note is that everything that happens from layers 2 to 7 are not picked up by copy effects. So if something is a copy of something else that's being modified, so like for example, if you have a creature that has an aura or equipment on it that's giving it +2/+2, right? And you make a copy of
Mm,
that creature, the copy does not get +2/+2, right? Because that is a separate effect that is on a different layer that does not get picked up by those copy effects. Now,
yeah.
vehicles being crewed modifies itself in layer 4 to give it the creature card type until the end of turn. That's a layer 4 change. So everything between layers 2 and 7 doesn't get picked up by copy effects. So making a copy of that crewed vehicle gives you an uncrewed, non-creature copy of that vehicle.
So how does that interact as far as SBAs with it coming in tapped and attacking?
Yeah, so what'll happen is the effect will still see it as a viable thing to copy because it is a creature and the effect says copy a creature, right? And so what happens
Yeah.
is it'll do as much as it can. So that copy will, if that's what you choose to do, that copy will enter tapped, but because it's not a creature, it cannot be attacking. And since you've already passed the point of declaring attackers, even if you were to crew it, you can't redeclare it as an attacker, right? Once it's not an attacker, it can't be an attacker again. Um,
Yeah.
and so the good thing would be like if that vehicle has a really good enter the battlefield trigger, then sure, that's worth doing.
Yeah. So, well,
Yeah.
that's a good one thing to know. The one that you just explained now.
Mhm.
The other thing I think I know this answer too, but is this Eater of Virtue. Whenever a quick creature dies, um, exile it.
Okay.
And as long as a card exiled with Eater of Virtue as flying, the equipped creature gets also flying.
Oh, right,
Now,
right. Yeah.
I have I have this equipment. I have a creature with let's say this as lifelink. This dies, it gets exiled under the Eater of Virtue.
Okay.
Now somebody destroys Eater of Virtue, goes to the
Okay.
graveyard. I get Eater of Virtue back from the graveyard somehow,
Right. Does
and
it still
now,
see the exiled card, basically?
yeah, of course
It
not.
it does not because Eater of Virtue is now a new object that has no connection to the previously exiled card.
Yeah, I was kind of certain of this as well, also.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff. That layer thing, actually, I did have some uncertainty on that too, but now it clarifies a lot, kind of. So whatever is modifications on top of the cards values it's not gonna get picked up from.
Yeah, so
Clones.
if you have a brief minute, let me give you just a little primer on layers to show you how they
I
work.
love your
I'm not
whiteboard.
I'm not gonna. Oh yeah, you saw it in some of the videos. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I did, yeah.
I'm not gonna go into like super detail about the layers, but let me give you just kind of enough to understand kind of how they're structured, right? So we start with what's printed on the card. Okay. Let me grab a different one that's gonna show up better because that's too light. Let me grab this one. Okay. So we always start with what's printed on the card, right? And then and if it's not a card, if it's like a token or something, then this would be like the token creation characteristics, like 1/1 elf, or 2/2
Oh yeah.
warrior with haste or whatever. That's all just kind of right here what's printed.
Yeah.
There are 7 layers, like a burrito. And layer 7 is broken into 4 sub layers. It used to be 5, but they combined 2 of them. But anyway, everything in layer 1 is the copyable characteristics. So what that means is that if I have a clone, which is normally a 0/0 illusion, right? It's a 0/0 illusion, 4 mana value, it's blue, it has all these characteristics to it. If I have a clone enter as a copy of a grizzly bear, right? It changes itself in layer 1 to be a 2/2 green creature bear with 2 mana value, no other characteristics, right?
Yeah.
And then if something makes a clone of that cloned grizzly bear, it picks up the clone effect. Like, I'm not making another clone, I'm making another grizzly bear, because it sees the change that it made to itself in layer 1. Okay. So then you've got like layer 2, which is control effects. You've got layer 3, which is text changing, which only really it came back into relevance with Deadpool. Layer 4 is type changing. Layer 5 is color. Layer 6 is abilities. So like something says target creature gains flying till end of turn, that's a layer 6 change. But then if something else says, each creature loses all abilities, that's also a layer 6 change. We'll get into timestamps and stuff in a minute if you need me to. Layer 7 is the power toughness layer, which is broken down into sub layers of characteristic defining abilities. And then layer 7B is your abilities that set power and toughness. Then C is anything that modifies the power and toughness, and layer D is anything that swaps power and toughness. So this right here, everything that happens between layers 2 and 7 do not get picked up by copy effects. So like I said, anything that would like give my creatures +2/+2, and then I copy that creature, the copy is not getting the +2/+2.
Okay, but the clone, if the clone enters as a copy of something, you copy the clone. You're copying basically whatever the clone has
Right,
copied.
right. If I have the clone enter as a copy of the grizzly bear, and then I have an effect that makes a token copy of that clone, I'm not making
Yeah.
another clone that can enter as something else. I'm making what that clone copied.
So
Now,
wait. You're not making a. So okay, I don't have the cards here, but let's
it's
say
okay.
this is clone. Literally, the card clone.
Yep.
0/0 enters as something,
Sure.
and then you play. I don't know.
So let me show you, because I do
trigger-
have cards in front of me. Just say I've got this Requiem Angel in play, okay?
Yeah.
And I have a clone enter as a copy of the Requiem Angel. If I make another copy of the clone, I'm not making another clone that can enter as something else. It sees the clone changed itself in layer 1, and so I'm just making another Requiem Angel.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. As I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
for instance, with like Face Stealer,
You talking about Ko, the Face Stealer?
yeah.
Ko is
if
not
you're
Ko is not making copies of anything or becoming a copy of anything. It just has abilities of things in exile.
yeah, so that's layer 6, and it doesn't get, like, if you created a token of Ko, it doesn't get the abilities.
Correct, and it also has no connection with the exiled cards.
Yeah. How often are you on? Because I always have stupid questions.
Well, actually, if you go to my, I don't have like a set schedule that I come out and do this, but if you go to my YouTube homepage, in the description of the YouTube channel, there is a link to my Discord if you want to join, where I do answer these types of questions regularly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I will be. Awesome, man.
So if
Alright,
you
well,
bake the potato, can you also bake the salami? I'm joking.
So no, here's one for you though. Why do we bake cookies and cook bacon?
Well, we bake cookies and bacon.
how many kids have you got?
How many what?
How many kids do you have?
3. Is it that obvious?
Yeah.
Hey, look though. Look, here's the thing. I've been on the dad joke train long before I became a dad. I used to I used to train new hires at work, at my old job, and back when COVID hit, we had to go fully remote. And the downside to that is that when we were all in a room together, I could see everybody's expressions as I was going through information and could see who was confused and who needed help and all that kind of stuff, you know. And so I knew like what to go back and review a little bit. When we went remote, of course, I didn't get to see everybody's expression, but also they didn't get to see each other be confused. So nobody would ever want to be the first person to admit they didn't understand something. And so nobody wanted to ask questions, right? And so what I would do is I would set aside a time. Let's say it's like day 2, and I'm like, all right, let's do a quick review of some information. I know you guys have questions. Let's set aside like 20 minutes to answer questions, right? And the thing is, nobody would want to be the first person to do it. And so I did this as a joke one time, and then realized, oh, they're gonna test me on this, so I should follow through. I told the group, the class, I was like, hey guys, look, I've set aside this time so we can ask questions that I know you have. And I promise you, for every question you have, there's at least 5 or 6 other people in this group that have the exact same question. Please don't be afraid to ask, right? There's not a dumb question. Trust me, I've tested that theory on myself. Anyway. And so still nobody would ask a question. So here's what I would do. Excuse me. Is I would tell them, I was like, all right, guys, look, there's like 15 minutes left and I've set aside this time. We are not going to sit here in 15 minutes of silence. Either you are going to start asking questions that I know you have, or I am going to fill the remaining 15 minutes with bad dad jokes. And so there, and inevitably in every class, nobody would ask anything, so I would start in on a joke. And these aren't little, and hold on, let me be clear. I didn't do little one-liners with bad punchlines. I would tell like a whole story with a punchline that wasn't worth it. Right? So like my favorite one to start with, I'm going to give you the short version of this, but imagine that this went a lot longer than what I'm about to tell you. Okay? It would be a story about a chess tournament that happened recently, and there were people from all over the country, even outside of the country, these high-ranked, chess players, well known among the chess community, and they all came to this convention center, huge tournament, weekend long, Friday, Saturday. They announced winners and gave out all the awards on Sunday, and so Sunday afternoon, everybody is back at their hotels, which are packed. Every single one of these hotels in the area are just absolutely packed from all these visitors from outside, outside the area. And now you get enough people in that lobby checking out, and you get enough people with a common interest in one place, they're going to start talking. They're going to swap stories. They're going to, whatever. And you get enough people doing that, even though none of them are particularly being loud, the group as a whole gets pretty loud. And so, you got all these people who are like, oh yeah, I played so-and-so who's this rank from this country, and I performed this maneuver and tried this gambit and did this whole thing, and they're just having a good time swapping these stories. And the manager comes out in the lobby and gets everyone's attention. It's like, hey everyone, I'm so glad you had a great visit. I'm glad the weekend went well. We do have more guests we need to check in, so we need everyone to complete their checkout process as quickly as possible. Again, thank you so much for staying with us. We hope you had a great time. We wish you the best of travels on your way back home. Thank you. And he gets down and he goes back to the office. About little under 10 minutes later, there's still this huge commotion out in the lobby, and he goes out and he sees everyone is still there. It doesn't look like anybody's left. Everyone's out there swapping stories and making friends, exchanging information, talking about the games they played. And so he gets up and gets everyone's attention again and makes the same kind of speech, right? Like, hey, everyone, thank you so much for staying with us. We hope you had a great time. Have a great trip back home. We do really need to ask everyone to clear out the lobby so that our guests can come, our next guest can come in for the day. And so he goes into the office. A few minutes later, it's still just as loud out in the lobby. And at this point, he starts heading towards the office door, and his assistant manager stops and goes, "Hey, boss, hey, are you okay? Like, if you want me to go make an announcement, I'll go do that. But you look like you're getting kind of mad." He's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to control myself." He's like, "It's fine, but why are you so upset? Why are you so upset about this?" He's like, "Honestly, I can't stand these people." He's like, "Well, what do you mean these people? They're just, they're just they're talking about their chess games that they don't seem to be that bad." He's like, "No, this is just, it's too much. I can't stand." He's like, "What do you have against them?" He goes, honestly, if there's anything I can't stand in this world, it's chestnuts boasting in an open foyer."
Oh, chestnuts.
Right. And so here's the thing: is I would do that, and I would immediately, like, within 3 seconds, I'm getting notifications. I have a question. Please stop. I have a question. And so, so here's the thing: I did that one time with a class. This was like the third time I had done this with a group, with different groups that came through, and my supervisor was sitting in on that class, and I didn't know that she had dialed in. Right? I didn't know she was sitting in and listening to this because it's all remote, I didn't know. So I did the thing that I just told you I do. And she was very quiet throughout the whole thing. And then later on, when everybody went on like a lunch break, she messages me. She's like, "Hey, I just want to talk to you real quick. Can you give me a call?" I'm like, yeah. I called her up. Like, "Hey, what's up?" She's like, "Yeah, I was listening to that class, and I got to admit, I wanted to stop you. Like, I felt like you were wasting time. But I'm glad that I didn't, because I have never seen a class get that engaged that quickly."
The whole time I was thinking, where is this going? Where is this going?
And it wasn't worth it. It really wasn't. I know. That's the point.
Yeah. Even with you like telling me beforehand, I was like, "Oh, come on, please be good."
Excuse me.
No.
This has to do with the song, right?
Yeah, the Christmas song, "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Chestnuts boasting in an open foyer."
That, huh?
Right.